Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel.
It is 2025, so that means it is time to do my Battle of the Books 2024 edition to find out which one of my many books that I read last year is my favorite book of 2024. So if you're new to this channel and you haven't seen the previous years, I will link them in the description below, at least the final rounds, and you can kind of get a clue of what's going on and what my favorite books of the past couple years were. But I'll also explain the rules here really quickly. So I take all of the books that I have finished in 2024, except for books that I have rated below 3 stars and rereads, and I put them in this bracket creator. It gives me a random bracket based on the books that I've put in there, book titles, and the books go up against each other and I rate one. It's 2 books at a time and one comes out as the winner and moves on to the next round. Because there's so many, I think we have 80 books in this tournament this year, and we don't want to have all of those just in round 1 because that would just be forever videos going on. Some of them have had a bye in round 1 and made it to round 2 already. So if you don't hear books in this video or the next one, that's because they either did not make the cut or they got a bye into round 2. So you'll see them in the next couple videos. I'm splitting up round 1 into 2 different videos. So we'll have the first half of our books in this video and the second half in the next video coming up. A lot of people find this really fun to do. I find it fun, but also extremely stress-inducing because I hate making choices. And this is kind of my cop-out to making a favorite top 10 book of this year video. This just puts the books against themselves, and I still have to pick books, but it makes it a little bit less stressful and more fun for all of us. So I did no prep for this other than writing down our matches on my notepad. Some of these books I probably won't remember hardly at all, and some of these books I'll definitely remember. Some I've read back in January of last year, and some I read just in December, and some are more memorable than others, and there's a bunch of series because I did a lot of series last year. So we'll see how this goes. I hope you guys enjoy this. So our first matchup is Dad Camp versus Proven Guilty. Dad Camp was an arc I read about a dad and his daughter going to dad camp, which was adorable. It is kind of literary fiction, kind of contemporary fiction. Proven Guilty is one of the Dresden books that I read and absolutely loved. So I think this one has to go to Proven Guilty just because it's hard to beat Dresden in a lot of things. Our next matchup is My Boss is the Devil versus the Three Musketeers. My Boss is the Devil was a book I read based off an author request. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't a 5-star read for me. I think it fell around a 3.5, 4-star, maybe 4.5 star. The Three Musketeers was also not a 5-star read for me, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I think I'm going to give this one to the Three Musketeers. Our next setup is The Delve against Assassin's Apprentice, and I think some Robin Hobb superfans are going to be surprised by this, but if you've seen my videos, you know I wasn't the biggest fan of Assassin's Apprentice or the Farseer trilogy, and while The Delve wasn't a 5-star rating for me, I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed Assassin's Apprentice, so I'm gonna give this one to our indie book, The Delve. Next up, we have The Space Between, which was an Outlander novella that I listened to on audiobook, versus Ancient as the Stars, which was a sci-fi self-pub author requested book that I read. While I enjoyed The Space Between because we got different perspectives in certain times of the Outlander timeline, it just felt like there were some things in there that made no sense to me at all. Like characters that were supposedly dead coming back to life. I just couldn't get over that fact. And so this one, I think I'm going to give it to Ancient as the Stars. While I had some slight issues with Ancient as the Stars, it kind of made me appreciate science fiction in a different light because it made it easier to understand, whereas I have a hard time understanding a lot of science fiction. Our next matchup is Return of the Griffin versus A Fire Endless. This is a hard one. This is definitely the hardest one that we've had so far. So Return of the Griffin is a superhero space opera by J.C.M. Byrne. It's an indie book. I absolutely loved the first book in this series. This is book 2, and I didn't like it as much, but I still loved it. A Fire Endless is the second book in the Elements of Cadence duology, and while it wasn't as good as the first one, it was still really, really good. I think I'm going to give this one to A Fire Endless, but a very slight win over Return of the Griffin. Fire Endless was just so magical to me. Next up, we have We Solve Murders by Richard Osman versus Owl Eyes Motel. This one I am going to give to We Solve Murders because I just filmed my review for that book and I loved it so much. Whereas Owl Eyes Motel, I had some issues with this book. I think I rated it somewhere in the middle grounds, 3 stars. So I didn't hate it. I just had some issues that I couldn't get over by the end of the book. So this one is going to go to We Solve Murders. Our next book up is The Wishing Stone by Adam Holcomb versus The Scottish Prisoner, which is a Lord John Grey book by Diana Gabaldon, her side series that she does. You'll know how much I love Outlander and Lord John Grey especially, but The Scottish Prisoner, while I loved it and it gave us that kind of middle period that we don't get a lot of information from because it's kind of in between 2 of the Outlander books, it still felt like there was something missing. And The Wishing Stone did a marvelous job advancing the story of Gam Gam. I loved it so much. I got to read an arc of it and I instantly wanted book 3, even though obviously, since I'm reading the arc for book 2, Adam Holcomb has not yet written book 3. But I felt like I instantly wanted to continue in this series, and these characters I just continue to love. So this round goes to The Wishing Stone. And then our last matchup of this video is A Memory of Light versus White Knight, which is basically Wheel of Time versus Dresden, and I really enjoyed A Memory of Light, but I don't know that it was really long and it felt like somewhere in the middle was needlessly long. It didn't need to be as long as it was, and White Knight and Dresden and Jim Butcher just, for me at least, in my opinion, find that perfect balance between each other. So I think I'm going to give this one to White Knight. And I know that there are some superfans out there that are probably watching this and super surprised that Brandon Sanderson, Robert Jordan, and Robin Hobb did not make it past this video. But I have part 2 coming for you soon, so maybe they'll make it in another one. But that's it for now, and let me know in the comments below which choices surprised you. Which ones would you have made if you were given these choices? Links to all of my reviews will be in the description below for all of these books, so if you haven't seen my videos for this or my written reviews, then you can go and check them out if you want to know more information about all of my thoughts on these books. Stay tuned for part 2 of round 1 very soon. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.